Christian parenting.
Welcome to the Called to Love podcast, where we discuss all things adoption and foster care and dive into the practical, the clinical, and most importantly, the biblical perspectives to help you and your family thrive. I'm Summer Colbert, adopted mom, director of adoption and foster ministry, and champion for the Arkansas Baptist Children and Family Ministries. Adoption and foster care aren't just a process. They are both unique invitations to go on a journey with the Lord, where you will experience life-changing opportunities to grow in your faith and learn to love in an entirely new way. One thing is for sure, being called to love means you will never be the same. Hey families, welcome back to Called to Love. This week, I am so excited to add another resource to your parenting tool belt as foster and adoptive parents. You know, one of the biggest struggles that we can have is power struggles with our kids over the consumption of media and entertainment. And we know that it is no secret that most platforms are unapologetic in the toxic and unhealthy and inappropriate content that they are exposing our kids to. And so what can we as Christian parents do and foster and adoptive parents who are trying to protect our kids' minds and their hearts as they walk through a journey of healing? Well, we can eliminate those power struggles with today's resource, TruPlay. And I sat down with its founder and CEO, Brent to share all about what this resource is, how it can benefit your family, and the realities of what kids and parents are facing in media consumption today. I'm excited for you to hear this. Let's dive in. Welcome back, families, to Call to Love. I am so grateful for your time and spending with us today. And I am really grateful for this conversation today from CEO and founder of the Christian entertainment company, TruPlay, Brent Dusing. Brent, thank you so much for being here.
Great to be with you today.
I'm really excited to hear from you. Your team had reached out to me just to share a little bit about, just the ongoing concern of how media is affecting our kids and just targeting our kids with certain types of content online. And for those of us who are foster and adoptive parents who may have kids coming into our homes that have had previous exposure or just a different understanding and a use of media altogether, and then we as Christian parents are coming in and we're trying to either counter that or protect that, this is a really, really applicable conversation for us today. So let's just start out a little bit with you sharing with us kind of what you've recently found and some concerns that would be important for Christian parents to know and understand.
Absolutely. So, I think let me just give a few observations and look, we're all on the same team here, and at TruPlay, we really have built a product, which I'm sure we'll talk about, where we're coming alongside parents and families. So I want you to know that I'm if you're a Christian parent out there, you're trying to raise your kid the right way. It feels like everything's coming against you. My team and I at TruPlay are here for you. We hope that this is something that kind of affirms and strengthens and builds your family, and you view us as we're parents just like you. We just decided to do something about it.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm seeing. I think one of the first observations I would share is if you're bringing a child into your home who's previously been exposed to social media, it's not a lot different than if you brought in a child who got to eat candy bars and ice cream for breakfast. Maybe the only difference is, and I'm kind of serious about this, it would also be as though that ice cream and the candy bars have been laced with arsenic. There's so much toxic media, so much toxic content from social media, but from games, from movies and music, and everybody's read the headlines lately about major media companies. One of them is their stock price has been decimated in the last year because they've been producing a lot of content that's really been pretty toxic for kids, and a lot of parents aren't paying them anymore. There's another company who's built very successful online games, but unfortunately they're getting sued by parents because they didn't do enough to prevent child predatory behavior, and they knew what was going on and they didn't do anything about it.
Right.
And so, look, you and I are about the same age. We're either late Gen X or we're millennials. We're raising children in our home. We're trying to raise them with Christian values. The second point I want to make to you is what media and the media platforms, whether it's content or the distribution mechanisms or the social media platforms, the values they're teaching your children, they're teaching you everything your mama taught you was wrong. They're telling you is right.
Yes.
And vice versa. So you have to know going in, like how Jesus said, well, we're not of this world. It is almost like opposite day. And so you have to know going in that there's a lot of toxicity to be aware of, and that what's really sad that I've seen, and this has really been in the last 5 years,
Mhm.
there's been such an acceleration, and this is my third point, such an acceleration and in fact, a friend of mine named John Stonestreet, who runs the Colson Center, if you've ever heard of Chuck Colson, John Stonestreet said one time, he said, things that were unthinkable 10 years ago are unquestionable today. And
Wow.
so I used to naively in my mind say, oh, well, there's no way some company would push that thing out for kids. And in the last 3 years, I've completely given that up to just say, no, they, as bad as you think it could be, that is what they will do.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that so that you're aware. But I think the last point I'll make is that there is hope, that what we've done at TruPlay, I think, and what we've started to see our families say and how much they enjoy the product, is that there is something that we've built that not just affirms your values, that builds up the values in your children, but that your child will actually love. Um, and that's what I'm saying is I think God's not done with us yet, and not to give up hope
Yeah.
that there is hope out there for this next generation. I was going to say one last thing that might surprise you. Only 60% of adults in America believe in God, only 30% of kids.
Yes.
So the result of all this toxic content has been to shift people's eyes away from God, from Jesus, from the Bible's truth, because the average child's on a screen 52 and a half hours a week. And you might say, well, I don't want my kids to play any video games. Well, if you walked in your house tonight and you saw your child with a pornographic magazine, let me ask you, would you throw away every book you had? No.
Mm,
You would throw that out, but you'd keep your good books.
that's a great point.
So in the same way, any media form, whether it's video games or movies or TV shows, don't throw out the entire category for the sake of pieces of content that are negative. And that's the kind of the paradigm shift.
That's a really great point, and I appreciate you saying that because it does feel like all or nothing sometimes, and so much when it comes to sensitive and toxic material, and we're trying so hard to protect our kids, we can operate and decide based on fear and panic even because we're like, oh, that's bad. We just got to get rid of all of it. But then in the meantime, our kids want to be relevant with their friends, and our kids, still want to be engaged in things that interest them. And so I love what you've been able to do at TruPlay in creating an alternative that also alleviates a power struggle. I think a lot of times that can hinder relationship. We talk about that a lot on the show, Brent, with, connection with our kids, especially our kids who've experienced trauma and hard things.
Yeah.
We want to connect with our kids. And so we want to alleviate power struggles where we can and give them freedom and control in areas that they can. And so for our families who are not familiar with TruPlay, give us an introduction of what TruPlay is and what it can do for families.
Yeah, so TruPlay is a brand new service we just launched a few months ago. It's an app that you can get on your phone, on your tablet, whether Apple or Android, and it's one app with a whole bunch of games inside it, videos and comics. So we call it a digital entertainment platform for kids. It's very, very high quality content. It's our games. Here's what's interesting: our kids love our games so much. Their statistics in our games are as strong or better than the top 10 games in the App Store that your kids are playing in terms of the enjoyment that we see in the usage of the content.
That's great.
Another interesting, one of the promises we make to parents is every piece of content we make at TruPlay, whether it's a game, a comic, a video, contains God's truth.
Mm.
Some might be biblical stories. We have a new game coming out shortly called King David's Battles, where you get to play the game about King David. And these are, by the way, high quality mobile games, like the top of the top games you're playing on your phone or your iPad. They're not simple little tiny games. They're deep games you can play and enjoy for hours. Every piece of content we make contains God's truth, whether it's biblical, or if you look at my shirt, I have this character who's a little girl who's a bunny rabbit with a tiger costume. Her name is Maple. She's very headstrong. She believes in Jesus. And she goes on this grand adventure with other characters who I'll describe in a minute. And they're kids who are dealing with things that kids today deal with, but they're learning. Some believe in God, some are on a journey with God, but they're combating evil, and they're going on these great adventures with spaceships and bad guys and laser beams and all types of fun stuff. But the average child is using TruPlay for an hour and a half a week. So if you take your kid to church once a week, and that's the exposure they're getting to God's truth, we're more than doubling their exposure to God's truth. And that's our offering to families is this is something your child's going to love. So back to your point around power struggles. You don't want, like you said, you don't want to be in a fight. Well, you have to do this, you have to do that. And sometimes previously, I think with entertainment choices in the Christian world, it felt like you were trying to tell your kid they had to eat broccoli for breakfast,
Yes.
or that really awful. If you've ever eaten the yellow box Cheerios without any sugar in it, where it really tastes like cardboard and even
Right.
smells weird, you're like, no, I don't want, I can't. And then you get in this fight
Yeah.
because you don't want your kid to eat chocolate cake lined with arsenic for breakfast.
Right.
They don't want to eat broccoli or the unsugared Cheerios, and then you're stuck. You're in a fight, which is
Yeah.
kind of what you're saying. What we've done at TruPlay is no, we're not selling you Robitussin, right? Well, I know this tastes awful, but you need to drink it. It'll
Right.
help your cough. We don't. That's not us. What we're offering to your family is here's chocolate cake with a lot less sugar than it looks like, and a whole lot more protein, calcium, vitamins that your child needs. And the point is they're going to love it. That's why we call it chocolate cake, and that's been borne out. If you take a look at our website, the quality, we've been just endorsed by we great people. You know, Dean Kane, Kevin Sorbo, Mike Huckabee, the Billy Graham Association, Promise Keepers, Sam Rodriguez, just phenomenal groups. Candace Cameron Bure, just phenomenal groups of people who have come and said, this is awesome. The counterculture mom, Tina Griffin, to say, this is the answer to what we've been looking for in terms of, is this affirming God's truth, but can my kid actually love it and want to use it? And that's what we're offering to families at TruPlay.
Hey, sweet friend, do you have questions about adoption and foster care? This podcast is meant to be a resource for you, to help you in this calling which can be full of so many unknowns. We want to answer your questions, which is why in the show notes you'll find Summer's email, which is summercolbert@gmail.com, where you can submit your questions to Summer and let us know if we can share your questions or story here on the podcast, so other listeners can know that they aren't alone in their wondering and experiences. Again, that email is SOMERCOLBERT@gmail.com, or use the link below. You are not alone in this journey, sweet friend. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
I love that. And it's so encouraging. It gets me excited, especially for our families who are listening, where they're like, we want at every opportunity to pour God's truth and God's love and God's word into our kids. Especially, I'm thinking of our foster families who this might be just a temporary situation where this child is in their home and they want to make the best of their time and the most of their time with these kids. And so they're offering something that's fun and engaging, but it's also inserting God's truth into their minds as they're, enjoying the play as well. And so I really love that. And one of the things that I really want you to share that it made me so excited is just how you have really taken the time to personalize your characters. And you had alluded to this a moment ago of they're all kind of going through their different journeys and different things, and they have different components about their lives within their story that make life hard. And you even have a character who is adopted. And so tell us a little bit more just about how kids are going to be able to relate to these characters.
We do. So all of our characters, they look very silly. Maple's a bunny rabbit in a tiger costume, and we have a character named Lucas who's a skunk that wears a crocodile robot suit that flies and shoots lasers that he built. But they all are their character, and the voices, and the tone and their journeys are very relatable to children. So what happens with Maple is she charges into the forest. She hears there's a lost child that needs to be rescued, and Maple's brave, and she's just headstrong. And she rescues this boy who was trapped in these vines, and he's a fox, but he wears a bear costume. His name's Oliver. And he's adopted by a bear family. So he was born a fox, a biblical fox. He lost his parents. He's adopted by a bear family, and he wears the bear costume so he can try to fit in.
Wow.
Now, Oliver's our nerd. He's read all the books. He knows all the facts. He's not quite sure about God. In some sense, yeah, probably God exists because I am a biblical fox. But on the other hand, why are we praying? Where is God? Who is God? I don't see God. Why would anybody take the time to pray?
Yeah.
And Maple has to take him through that journey. Now, these are journeys done while they're in the forest, and there's vines, and there are these bad guys called Smuds, and there's this evil queen called Azilla who's sending people to stop them and destroy them. And so this is a grandiose adventure where the characters are developing over time. But what happens with Oliver in particular is he winds up choosing to be adopted by Christ.
Hmm.
Because he realizes, in his heart, he is a child of God. We have another character named Ava. Ava does believe in God, but she's our only character. Actually, she's a lynx, but she wears a fawn costume, like a baby deer. She's our only character whose outfit is more docile than her actual animal, and the reason for that is she's getting beat down by the world. So her parents are divorced, and if you've come from a divorced home,
Mhm.
you didn't ask for that.
Right.
That's not something that you probably wanted as a child, but that's the circumstances thrust on her. She's getting bullied at school. She's getting told you're no good. People don't like you. And she has to learn your identity is not who people say you are or who the world says you are. Your identity is a child of God.
Yeah.
And your identity is who God made you to be. And your value is, Jesus paid his life for you. That's your value. So the thing is that she has to learn to be more bold, to be more brave, to be more fierce, because she can take confidence in her identity and who God made her to be. And with so much identity conversation in today's society, that's a message every child needs to learn about what identity really means.
Yes, that's fantastic. And I really do love just how you've taken so much thought and time to really personalize these characters for kids. And it really is, we kind of jokingly say it's like the Miyagi effect. Like, you don't know you've been Miyagi'd and you're like learning all of these things while you're also really enjoying playing. But one of the reasons why I wanted to welcome you into this special episode today, Brent, was so that our parents could hear about the offering that you give and what you've taken so much time to work hard and to give as a resource for our families. And I really feel like this is going to be a fantastic option for our parents who are trying to connect with their kids, who are wanting to just instill God's word in different facets of their life. And so tell us the age range that
Yeah.
these resources are appropriate for.
Yeah, so it's interesting. We when you look at who uses TruPlay, and like I said, the average child, not the average family, because if you buy a subscription, you get every single one of your children, even yourself, can then get your own profile and use the games at your own speed, so nobody will use your coins or mess up your levels.
It's a problem.
Well, the average person's using it an hour and a half a week, and the average age of kids is around 5 to 13 years old. But I will tell you, we've had some kids a little younger get on and love it. We've had teenagers. We even have kids who are 30 and 40 years old who enjoy TruPlay.
I love it.
What I mean by that is there's a lot of parents who wind up enjoying it and playing it with their kids. And if you play our game Stained Glass, which is it's really it's a match 3 game, like if you've played Bejeweled Blitz or Candy Crush or Royal Match. It's that style of a game, but you're making these stained glass windows with these glass pieces you're matching, and then they come to life in these real life paintings where a character from the Bible comes and tells you their story from more of a real life, what if you were in their shoes standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And so we find a lot of adults like that. The way that the Maple story, we talked about Maple and Oliver and this grandiose adventure they go on, that story is written to not just be enjoyed by kids, but also have something there for adults. If when Disney used to make great stuff like with The Lion King in 1994, where I can watch that today and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we aspire to write in such a sense that the parents will enjoy it as well.
Yes, I love that. And that goes to the heart of what we as foster and adoptive families, strive for is just that connection. And so anything that we can add to what we like to call our toolbox of connecting activities, I think is really, really helpful. And so this is a really, really great resource for us to be able to share with our families today. And so I'm just really grateful for your time and explaining that a little bit to us. I want to give you the opportunity, first of all, just to remind our listeners where they can access TruPlay and how they can get that for their family, but then also maybe just leave a word of encouragement for foster and adoptive families who really are they're in the fight, they're in the trenches, they have chosen to say yes to children that the Lord has called them to, and then they can utilize this resource. How would you encourage them as we close out?
Sure. So to the first part, you can get TruPlay at TruPlayGames.com. Go to our website. You'll see we've just had a phenomenal group of people who vetted us and said, "Hey, this is fantastic." I think some names that as Christians that you would trust, and I think the quality speaks for itself. And I'll say for my team, this is a team. We're parents just like you. This is made by Christian parents who were not happy with the way things are going and decided to do something about it.
Yeah.
But what's cool is we're not just parents, but we're professionals. I mean, my head of product ran the Farmville franchise, if you remember that. Our head of engineering developed the algorithm at Amazon that says split this order into multiple packages. One of our story writers, we're just talking about stories, he's written Christian books that have sold over 3 million copies. I mean, I could go on, but it's a phenomenal team.
Yeah.
And we're here as an encouragement to come alongside you as a parent. What the world is doing right now is just what the devil does. Devil tempts you into sin and he blames you once you do it.
Yep.
What's happening right now is, hey, there's all this awful content on social media and games and movies and music and all these nasty things that 10 years ago were unthinkable. Now we're getting taught to small kids.
Right.
And then if something happens, if there is depression or anxiety or, God forbid, a suicide or a school shooting, immediately the parent is blamed.
Right.
But so hold on. So if I serve like when the water got poisoned in Flint, Michigan, if a parent turns on the water faucet, they expect to get clean water. That's why you pay the water bill. That's why you pay taxes. You don't blame the parent for letting their kids drink water. You blame the water authority. You blame the people who poison the water. And as TruPlay, we're coming alongside you and saying, we're in your team. We made something that we hope you love. And by the way, we release new content inside the app all the time, just like how Netflix has new shows. We always have new games, new videos, new content. So there's always something new for you. But the point really is, as an encouragement, one, we're coming alongside you. Two, I do want to say, especially to parents who have chosen, to adopt or to foster, that is not an easy road. And I know that you sometimes have to take on the burden that all this toxicity we've talked about has been thrust upon you way before you even had anything to do with it or choose it. But that one, I know for sure that I can tell you that God loves children, and that two, your courage and your righteousness will be honored. The Bible says that. Jesus is always talking about don't be afraid. He's always talking about those who seek righteousness will find it, right? So that will be honored. And God is not done as bad as it seems for this generation. I'm not here to tell you that it's not bad right now. It is bad right now.
Yeah.
Only 30% of kids believe in God, which is astonishing.
Yeah.
Less than half of Americans go to church. It's amazing what's happened in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
But I promise you, God's not done. And there is hope, and there is joy, and there is love to be had. And that's my encouragement for parents out there. And I appreciate people being willing to step up and do that in a world where there's less and less good parents every day.
Yes, that's such a great word. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for your time today, Brent. And I just thank you for what you're doing. And I'm grateful to the Lord that He is blessing your efforts. And so I want our families to know about this and to be able to utilize this. Listeners, I'm going to have all these links in today's show notes. And I pray that you will utilize this resource and then send Brent a message to let him know how it has blessed your family. I know that we will both be glad to hear about that. So Brent, thank you so much for being my guest today. It's been an honor.
So good to be with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to Called to Love today. I love to hear from listeners, and so I would love to connect with you to hear your stories and answer your questions right here on the show. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, send me a direct message, or send me an email at the link in today's show notes. I pray you have been encouraged by today's episode to walk in faith and continue to embrace your own call to love. Until next time, blessings, sweet friends.